close to free agency. Oh, look at this. This is real snazzy by our graphics team. Or quarterback futures, crystal ball, or... Oh, there's Malik Willis. All right. I like how you guys did that. A lot of intrigue about the future of free agent quarterback Malik Willis. Adam, what are you hearing about his market as free agency inches closer?
Laura, it should be pretty strong. He is expected to be arguably the top free agent quarterback available. You would think that Arizona, who will be coached by Mike LaFleur, Matt LaFleur's brother, will have some level of interest. Miami could decide to have some level of interest in Malik Willis, but there should be a fairly strong market for the player that many identify as the top free agent quarterback available in this market.
Atlanta could be an option as well with the Falcons. Michael Penix coming off of an injury. Now you have a quarterback with somewhat of a veteran presence who could be your quarterback of the future if Michael Penix doesn't work out, or a guy who can develop and help Michael Penix learn the position. And so I think Atlanta is another team to add to that list of potential options.
Yeah, they got Tommy Rees as their offensive coordinator, Kevin Stefanski in there. Maybe he is a good fit for the type of offense they want to run. If you like that crystal ball thing as much as I did, you're going to see it again because we're going to show you Geno. Oh, there it is. Okay. Geno Smith could be available if teams are willing to make a trade. Jeremy, what are you hearing about Geno's market?
Laura, still a Las Vegas Raider, but here's the situation. The Raiders need a steady veteran quarterback to either back up Fernando Mendoza or potentially start games as a short-term bridge. Well, Geno Smith, my sense is, might not want that. He could try to get an opportunity elsewhere, potentially start. Love to be in like a Minnesota or Miami or somewhere else. So I suspect the teams will try to work out a trade or a release, and then he could go and sign, similar to what Kyler Murray's doing right now.
Yeah, this one's easy, Jeremy. Geno, you're under contract. You're a starting quarterback. We're going to draft Fernando Mendoza, but we gave up more sacks than anybody last year. We want to develop you and not put you in harm's way from day one. Geno Smith, at this point in his career, is the ideal bridge quarterback. Gives them a chance to have some credibility with new coach Clint Kubiak. I am in no rush to play Mendoza. I'm going with Geno Smith on opening day.
Yeah, I like that a lot. There is no rush here. We got to make sure that O-line is in a decent spot. They're not right now, so let's not get Fernando Mendoza in any trouble. Okay, Adam Schefter broke the news on Tuesday that Kyler Murray would be released by the Cardinals at the start of the new league year next week. Adam, what's the market going to look like for Kyler?
Well, here's the thing here, Laura, that's very interesting. The Cardinals owe him $36.8 million in guaranteed money. And so there's a real chance that Kyler Murray is going to be making $1.4 million this year from the new team. That's the veteran minimum. So he can pick wherever he wants. I know everybody's attaching him to Minnesota, and maybe he does wind up there. But maybe he goes to Kansas City and fills in while Patrick Mahomes recovers. Maybe he goes to Indianapolis and fills in while Daniel Jones recovers. He can go where he wants to go because he's going to take a very low deal that you can make the argument would be attractive to most teams across the league.
Yeah, it's good context, right? Jeremy, what more do you want to add to the Kyler scenario?
Well, he's going to have suitors when he is eventually released or traded. I mean, they'll leave a small window open to try to trade him. Probably not going to happen, but I think he's going to take his time. That's my sense. He's going to let the new league year come on Wednesday. He'll be released, and then he wants to take an official visit somewhere, meet with teams in person, and Kansas City would be fascinating. I hadn't heard that one. That's a sneaky one. Also, the Colts. I mean, look, Daniel Jones, whatever they do with him, it's expected he'll be back in Indianapolis, but he's not a slam dunk to start week 1 or even week 4. They have options and they have weapons and a pretty good team. Kyler Murray could slide into there for a year. He has a plethora of options at his disposal potentially.
That timeline's interesting, all the way till Wednesday, which at that point free agency is over. I think a lot of people are thinking like, oh, this is going to happen earlier. And when you think about that, Mike T, if you're one of these quarterback needy teams, you might have to make a move before you can figure out if Kyler could be the right answer, which does make me think, does he end up in a place where he's kind of bridging a gap before some of those quarterbacks get healthy? What's a landing spot that makes sense to you for Kyler?
Yeah, Laura, I would go with Minnesota because of his upside. When you think about this team with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, if I'm Kyler Murray, I am walking to Minnesota and saying, I will compete with J.J. McCarthy despite him going to the University of Michigan because I could go win a championship. You want to look at for a Sam Darnold redemptive story? There it is. Kyler Murray's upside with Kevin O'Connell and those weapons. The other thing is, this is a little bit of a nuance. I'd sign him to a 2-year deal, not a 1-year deal. You look at the difference between Mac Jones, who's under contract with the 49ers, and Daniel Jones, who's now a free agent. I'm sure Indy, which did a great job identifying Daniel Jones, wish they had that second year. So even though he's cheap this year, I'm going to try to do everything I can to get that second year when I sign Kyle Murray.
Yeah, I agree that Minnesota is the right spot and the right option. He could sign there for a veteran minimum because of the guarantees that Arizona still has on his contract. But I also think that it's a good reason because it still gives J.J. McCarthy that opportunity to develop. Kyler Murray can learn from Kevin O'Connell like Sam Darnold did, but also J.J. McCarthy can learn from Kyler Murray some of the ups and the downs of going through a tumultuous NFL, not just season, but for lack of better terms, a career. And so I think it's a good fit, not just for the quarterback, but also potential backup in J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, remember the Vikings quarterbacks had the most interceptions and second most sacks last season. Two things Kyler can fix with his legs alone. Time for one more thing before we go. Dak Prescott with some advice for his newly franchise tag teammate. Some breaking news. Start NFL Live. Adam Schefter, what do we need to know?
The Buffalo Bills have been looking for a big-name, high-profile wide receiver, and they landed one today from the Chicago Bears in return for their second-round draft pick. The Bills get a fifth-round draft pick and DJ Moore to step in and become the newest target for Josh Allen. Let's remember, DJ Moore played for Joe Brady in Carolina way back when. Now he'll play for Joe Brady again in Buffalo. There are the terms of the trade. The Bills have been in the free agent market for a wide receiver. The Patriots are expected to add a wide receiver, but the two rivals in the AFC East who are going to add to that room, the Bills become the first team in that division to add a productive wide receiver in DJ Moore. We'll see what's on tap for New England next.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more action, right, Adam? To your point, it's no secret that the Bills have been lacking in wide receiver production. Buffalo wideouts ranked in the bottom half of the NFL in many things last season and had as many receiving touchdowns as they had drops. Bills also did not have a single receiver reach 800 yards for the first time since 2018. I wanted to say all that just to really set the table for this show here today, okay? We're here with Mike Tannenbaum, Jeremy Fowler, Sam Acho is with us as well, Adam with us throughout the show. Let's dig in, you guys, beginning with the Bills side of all this. Sam, does this move do enough to overcome some of those bad numbers we just showed?
I think it absolutely does. Obviously, the Bills over the last several years have been a run-first football team with James Cook leading the charge. But now you have DJ Moore, who I believe is a true number one receiver. But he has a number one receiver without all of some of the drama that's been experienced before, not begging or demanding for the ball. Remember early in his time in Chicago, he was playing and Justin Fields wasn't the most prolific passer, yet there was still this receiver that stood up for his guys, stood up for his team. And so for me, I think it's the right fit and the perfect fit for the Buffalo Bills.
Sam, I see it slightly different. I think what we have to look at is scouring for a wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills in terms of DJ Moore is a great start. He's under contract for the next 4 years at very reasonable numbers, but I don't think he's a number one bona fide wide receiver at this point in his career. I would love for them to still go maybe draft somebody at 26. This draft is loaded with wide receivers, as we know. Maybe the A.J. Brown trade still potentially in some sort of, limbo relative. Does he get traded to New England? Does he get traded to Buffalo? Does Philly keep him? So I think DJ Moore is a great start, but they have more work to do. If they want to win a championship with this nucleus, they're in a win-now mode. I don't think DJ Moore is a number one at this point in his career.
Yeah, Mike T, the Bills scoured the earth for wide receiver the last 2 weeks. They assessed A.J. Brown's market with the Eagles. They looked at options in free agency like Alec Pierce, Romeo Doubs, Rashid Shaheed. Those players are costly anyway, so the Bills said, hey, if we're going to pay a lot for a receiver, let's go with somebody we're familiar with. Joe Brady, DJ Moore had chemistry. 2020, Moore averaged about 18 yards per catch in that offense in Carolina. So there's familiarity there, and I don't think the Bills are done. I expect either in the draft or with the homework they've done in free agency, they will add another receiver at some point.
Yeah, let's stay on that, Adam. What do you expect the Bills to do? Jeremy's alluding to them adding more. This is a really deep wide receiver class in the draft. What do you think is going to happen there?
Well, I think the Bills had a big move. I think this may have been the Bills' big move, but I think the Bears could continually also now be active. Obviously, I think they've checked in on Max Crosby. A lot of people wondering if they would make a move for Tyler Linderbaum in free agency, the center. They lost their center this week, Drew Dahlman, to a surprising early retirement and still have to plug that hole. So the Bears are expected to be active here over the next week of free agency. So Jeremy says the Bills aren't through. I don't think the Bears are through. The league year gets underway next week, and we've already seen 4 trades agreed to this week.
And I think that Tyler Linderbaum, that name would be a perfect fit for Chicago. Think about Ryan Poles and where he came from in his history in Kansas City. What do? They love protecting the inside for their quarterback. So I think that's a perfect fit. Now, when it comes to the trade that just happened, I think that Chicago's in a perfect position. They already have Luther Burden on a rookie contract, Roma Dunze on a rookie contract, Colston Loveland at tight end on a rookie contract, Cole Kmet. So they have the weapons at receiver. They did not need DJ Moore. So now we're just attacking that inside, and obviously you can go get pass rusher as well.
Yeah, let's spend a little bit more time on the Bears side of all this, because it's really interesting the way you guys are alluding to it. Okay, so when you look at what they're saving, this saves $16.5 million in cap space by trading DJ Moore to the Bills, which puts them just shy of $6 million to work with ahead of free agency next week. That's a big deal as we continue to talk through this, and we now have Courtney Cronin here, our Bears reporter. Send those guys out, send Courtney in. Courtney, let's spin it forward. Chicago now has some money to spend, so how do you see them using it?
So it's the 16.5 with DJ Moore. It's the potential 10 that they could recoup, obviously, with Drew Dahlman. We don't know how much of the signing bonus, but that's neither here nor there. That's a lot of money, and they might not be done yet. Because remember, Tremaine Edmonds was given the flexibility to go seek out a trade, which if that doesn't go through and they do end up releasing him, that's another $15 million. This points to them being very active in free agency, like Adam said. So when there is a Tyler Linderbaum on the market, who, when I talked with sources at the NFL Combine, believe that he will be the highest paid interior offensive lineman, north of $22.5 million a year. Now the Bears are in position to afford a player like that they can plug and play right next to their all-pro protector of the year, Joe Thuney, right there at left guard. But in addition, they now have 4 picks in the top 89 of the draft order. That second pick that they got, second round pick from the Buffalo Bills, is very helpful. If there is a trade on the table, maybe it is for a Max Crosby, keeping that pass rusher market in play here, whether it's a trade, whether it's now having the room to go after someone like Trey Hendrickson, Bradley Chubb, their options, based on their financial flexibility that they now have, are a lot more open to fill several voids, because we know the trenches are where the Bears have a lot of needs in free agency.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of changes for Caleb, too. You think new OC, new center. Now they're going to have no DJ Moore. I mean, he does have the other weapons, but it will be different for him at quarterback.
Yeah, and that's the reason. Like, they looked at this and they said, DJ Moore is a luxury piece on this offense. It wasn't somebody that they wanted to get rid of, but when you see how his role changed, he used to be the run after catch guy, the guy that Caleb Williams during year one would look to at the line of scrimmage on the screen passes. He had more targets than anybody else in the league on passes that traveled less than 10 yards downfield. So now his role became something where the Bears knew that they could move on. They believe in Roma Dunze being their number one receiver despite the health issues last year. They believe in Luther Burden. And frankly, Laura, all of this came into play because of Colston Loveland's rookie season. He exploded last year. The tight end is a big part of this passing game. So having DJ Moore would have been nice, but they know that they have a lot of other holes they have to fill on this roster, so moving him was the best option for the Bears.
Colston Loveland, just good for ball. That guy's fun to watch. Appreciate you, Courtney. Let's get to some more trade action as we're just flying around here. We get closer to free agency, which all becomes official next week. The Rams traded with the Chiefs for Trent McDuffie. Big move here. Rams right back in FM picks mode, right? They get key help in their secondary. The Chiefs add big draft capital now with the 29th pick to pair with the 9th overall pick in the first round. And here's what the Rams are getting, right? McDuffie elevates a Rams secondary that was already pretty solid last season, but had their troubles against the Super Bowl champion Seahawks. They went 1-2, losing both games in Seattle, and allowed 1.5 yards more per target against the Seahawks compared to every other opponent. So, Adam, let's start with you. Walk us through just how this deal all came together.
The Rams have been targeting the cornerback position. They went through the free agent cornerbacks and decided, do we want to go for a free agent cornerback, or do we want to make a bold move, the type of move that they've made in the past before? We've seen them pull off trades for Marcus Peters, for Jalen Ramsey, for all sorts of defensive backs. And once again, they've done it this time. And they figured that by trading for a player in Trent McDuffie, who's from the Los Angeles area, who desired to come back to the Rams, who's eligible for a contract extension, they could sign him to an extension and still get the benefits of the deal he had, or the year he had remaining on his deal this year. And so at some point here in the coming days, I expect that they'll get a long-term deal worked out with Trent McDuffie, and they get a cornerback that they believe would have been the best cornerback on the free agent market by far. They get a cornerback that they believe is one of the top players at his position in the National Football League, and they plug him into their defense. They had an extra first-round draft pick courtesy of the trade with the Atlanta Falcons last year when they got an extra first-round pick for trading away their second-round pick, which James Pierce, the Falcons took. And now the Rams surrendered one of those picks for a player they had identified as one of the top guys at his position.
Yeah, Adam, the Rams set out to improve their defense, get faster in the middle of the defense on the back end. So they've addressed cornerback. They could look at linebacker, try to get a little faster there. They're going to try to re-sign Cam Curl, their safety. But they knew that defense on the back end cost them a year ago. Where now Kansas City, they're clearly banking on their draft and their ability to get marquee players at cheap rookie-scale labor.
Yeah, I mean, Mike T, look, the reality is the Rams are like, we're in our Super Bowl window, so price is all relative. But is McDuffie, you think, worth the price tag of a first-round pick?
Absolutely. I love Trent McDuffie. He can cover. He can blitz. He is outstanding. He can play man-to-man. He can play zone. And, again, if we're building the Rams, guys, we got to go beat the Seahawks. We didn't have a corner that could cover Jackson Smith and Jigba one-on-one. We do now. And as Adam alluded to, we still have a first-round pick. I don't like this move. I love this move. Matt Stafford is obviously much closer to the end than he is to the beginning of his career. You have the Super Bowl champs in your division, and you say to yourself, how do we beat them? We got to cover Smith and Jigba, especially on third down. McDuffie can do that.
That you have a first-round pick. It's where that first-round pick is. The Rams traded away pick number 29. They still have pick number 13 in the first round. And so if they want to have a win-now culture, which they do have, they can also get their quarterback for the future in a guy like Ty Simpson. People might say the 13 is high. Well, maybe the Rams can even trade back and still get their quarterback who can develop for maybe a year or so under Matthew Stafford, behind Matthew Stafford. You have Trent McDuffie to win now, and you win for the sustainable future. So I love the trade for a couple reasons. Number one, you have that early pick, but number two, you're still in a position to get a guy that can lead your team for the next several years. For the first 8-9 games of the season, Ty Simpson was the best quarterback in football. There were some injuries, the play suffered down the line, but this is a guy you can build around. And so I think it's a great move for the Rams. They can win now, but they could also win down the line.
And we've seen the Rams do this time and time again. They don't care about the first-round picks, but they really don't care about the first-round picks in the years in which the Super Bowl is going to be played at SoFi Stadium. The last time SoFi Stadium hosted a Super Bowl in the offseason before, the Rams traded for Matthew Stafford. Now, the Super Bowl is going to be back at SoFi Stadium February 14, 2027, as I believe I heard on ESPN and ABC. And the Rams now have traded for arguably the best cornerback out there in Trent McDuffie. They are not afraid to go after a player that they feel like is a steep price, who's going to be a big upgrade on their team, especially when Los Angeles is hosting a Super Bowl.
Adam, did you say the Super Bowl is going to be on ESPN and ABC? Did I hear that right?
Yes.
I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for clarifying there. By the way, I saw you tweet that out, and I thought, only Adam. Like, only Adam reminds us of these things that just may or may not really matter, but somehow they always do, because Adam knows all. We got a lot more. Welcome back to NFL Live. The Patriots made a move yesterday, freeing up some cap space and releasing wide receiver Stephon Diggs. We'll talk about who they may go after to replace the production of Diggs and elevate their offense specifically in just moments. But first, here's the cap space picture now for New England. Bit of deja vu, right, for the Patriots, who spent over $200 million last offseason, a league high. Cutting Stephon Diggs puts the Pats $54 million under the salary cap, so plenty of money to go around once again. And last week at the Combine, head coach Mike Vrabel made it clear when he sees something he likes, he usually gets it.
I've never really tried to get focused. If I shop at Neiman Marcus or Nordstrom or something, I've gotten to the point now in my life where if I want something, I can usually buy it. I don't, I'm sure Richard Miller and Elliott and Matt Groh will work and do everything that they can to help us sign the players with certain exceptions. I haven't even gotten that far. If you like something, usually just try to buy it.
Yeah, I mean, that's how he felt about that denim shirt. I agree. It looks good. It's a good look for him. I'm sure there were times, Mike, as a GM, you had to tell a coach their free agent hopes and dreams weren't really a financial reality. So we're going to put you back in that role today. Let's start with Vrabel. It's not a sweater from Neiman Marcus, right? But you got to figure out that the Pats are going to be eyeing a wideout. What about Alec Pierce? A lot of conversation around him going there. What are you telling him when he knocks on your door?
Well, Mike Vrabel's a big, tough guy. Unlike someone like Rex, who I could easily take. I'd be a little concerned about. Look, we're going to go get him. 21.3 yards per catch, as we're looking at here, leads the league. He's going to be 26. Laura, we are in a win-now mode. Let's go get him. We set ourselves up really well. We got rid of Diggs. I would say let's go do this. Yeah,
I mean, he really became do-it-all for the Colts. Did so many good things for them last season. They'll hate to see him go. Brian Schottenheimer, by the way, he's on the line now to our GM, asking to spend some big-time money on Trey Hendrickson. What's your answer?
Yeah, my old guy, Schotty here. Absolutely. We made this decision a year ago when we traded Micah Parsons. Trey Hendrickson's going to be 32. Not ideal, but I'll tell you what, he's still productive. And look, Donovan Ezaraku, I think he's going to be a good player, Laura, but we need somebody to win now. And if we do this here, we can then go draft a corner with one of our 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, I like it. There's some good corners in this class that should be there for the Cowboys. Also good for Trey Hendrickson, getting out of Cincinnati, finally going to get a big deal somewhere else. Andy Reid wants to use that 9th overall pick on Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love. I personally love this, but how does the front office feel about that?
Yeah, well, look, Coach, we love Love, but not at 9 this year. We go draft a corner, and look, Jeremiah Love arguably is the best player in the draft. They need young, explosive weapons, but now that we traded Trent McDuffie, we are desperate for a corner. To win the AFC, we got to get off the field on 3rd down. A couple of other corners that they have are also free agents, so I would go get the best corner. Mansour Delaney here probably is the best one on their board. I would start there and try to get a running back later in the draft.
Man, hard to pass up, though, on Jeremiah Love. A lot of people now, after the Combine, have even had him switch with Fernando Mendoza as the best player in this draft. Let's turn our attention to Aaron Rodgers. I know you're going to like this, Mike T, as he went through a wide variety of topics yesterday on the Pat McAfee Show. Just a great interview, including where he is in his decision-making process related to returning to the Steelers. I mean, will he even play football again? Rodgers explained exactly where things stand when he jumped on with Pat yesterday.
There hasn't been any progressive conversations. I love Mike, and Mike and I have kept in contact over the years. I've had conversations with Omar. I really, I think Omar, enjoyed having me there. I think the guys, had a positive response, to our time together. But again, there hasn't been any deadline set on me. There hasn't been any contract, floated in front of me for me to well, we're giving you till, March the 8th to make a decision on this contract. There's been nothing to that respect.
During the interview, he was very complimentary to everything that he has with his familiarity with McCarthy and even some other guys that are going to be on staff. So you could read some tea leaves there potentially. A reminder, too, that it wasn't until June last year that he made a decision. So, Jeremy, what are you hearing about Rodgers' timeline at this point?
Yeah, Laura, even though there's no hard deadline, the Steelers would like Aaron Rodgers to sign before June this year so they could get that off their plate, move on in building their team. But Aaron Rodgers is not beholden by deadlines or timelines, so it's still unclear exactly when or if he's going to sign. So the Steelers need contingency plans here. They do like Will Howard a lot. Behind the scenes, when you talk to Pittsburgh people, they say the former 6th-round pick from last year is somebody who came along quickly, who understands the pro game. Like, if he had to spot start a little bit, they would be somewhat comfortable with that. And they have done a lot of work over the last few years on this particular draft of quarterbacks. So they're not beholden to have to take one super early, but if the opportunity presents itself, maybe day 2, early day 3, I could see them doing that.
And it wasn't just the Steelers staff that are excited about Will Howard. In that interview, Aaron Rodgers talked about how excited he was about Will Howard and his future, not just a human, but also as a football player. So if I'm the Steelers, I'm not overly concerned or in a rush to get Aaron Rodgers signed. We talked about the Will Howard piece, and if you don't hear from him by the draft, then all of a sudden you can go and potentially go get a quarterback in the draft, right in the middle of the draft, right around number 20. And so I understand there might be this excitement or eagerness to have Aaron Rodgers come back. I don't think that needs to be the case for Pittsburgh. They have a contingency plan with Will Howard, and they also have that 20th pick in the draft to be able to get a guy, and then we keep on saying that Ty Simpson name, the number 2 guy behind Fernando Mendoza, but they have that opportunity as well.
Yeah, if they miss on Ty Simpson, could it be a Carson Beck potentially? And maybe they even go that route even if they have Rodgers come back. Going to be fascinating to see what they do. All right, they will not have Jonnu Smith, though. You saw this news yesterday. Now it's official. The Steelers have officially released tight end Jonnu Smith. Keep an eye on what they do at tight end going forward, as well as Adam Schefter. Tell us about the trade that went down between the Bills and the Bears.
Laura, everybody had been waiting for the Buffalo Bills to make a move at wide receiver. Some thought it might be next week, but they went early. They got out in front of it and traded a second-round draft pick today to Chicago in return for DJ Moore and a fifth-round pick. DJ Moore now will step into Buffalo and become a top target for Josh Allen as Buffalo looks to upgrade its offense under new head coach Joe Brady, who, oh, by the way, worked with DJ Moore in Carolina. The Chicago Bears had a glut of wide receivers. They obviously have Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, last year's first-round draft pick, and they felt like they could move on from DJ Moore comfortably now, save some money against the cap, give them more flexibility next week, and add another valuable pick before the 2026 NFL Draft that you talked about in Pittsburgh coming up.
Yeah, now I'm real excited to see what they do next week. It's already been a busy offseason for the Bears. Haven't even hit free agency yet. That is next week. You got the Moore trade. Their center, Drew Dahlman, as we told you, retired a little surprising at age 27. New offensive coordinator. I mean, that's a lot going on in 1 month. Sam, we start with you. Do you like the move for Chicago?
I love the move for Chicago because of the young weapons that they already have that are on rookie contracts. And now what I'd love even better with Chicago, who's in a win-now mentality, would be to go and get Tyler Linderbaum to be your center to help protect Caleb Williams, to be able to get it to Rome Odunze and Luther Burden and Colston Loveland, and then go and get an edge player in this free agency. Cam Jordan just talked about him being a free agent. Maybe it's him. Maybe it's Trey Hendrickson. But this is a win-now mentality for the Chicago Bears. You have a quarterback on a rookie contract, an offensive play caller, and Ben Johnson, who is everything that the Bears fans expected and hoped, and a defense that can take the ball away. Now you just need a center and an edge rusher, and you're all set.
Oh, is that it, Sam? We'll have that done by dinner. Look, you have to win for today and develop for tomorrow. Here's why I like this trade. I love what they did with Luther Burden a year ago. 47 receptions, 2 touchdowns. So he had a chance to kind of get his feet wet, a little bit under the radar in Chicago. They need him to take the next big step. There's no way you can pay for all the things they need. And, Sam, I agree with that list. So you have to develop from within. And I think Luther Burden was a key to this trade. You free up much-needed cap space to attack other needs, and Luther Burden needs to take a big step for them next year.
Yeah, they had a lot of faith in him. Many other teams did, and really could have, if he can take that next step you're talking about, could have ended up being a good steal. Jeremy, between the Dahlman retirement, the injury on the O-line, does the cap savings here help Chicago make some sort of big move in free agency next week?
Yes, Laura, they do have some flexibility to try to add an edge rusher, and they do want to add one to some extent. Now, when I ask around the league about the Max Crosby sweepstakes, Chicago does come up on occasion. Now, it's uncertain whether they're willing to pay the price. It's going to be at least 1 first-round pick, maybe 2 to pry him away from Las Vegas, but they're involved in a lot of these discussions. You have Jonathan Grenard with the Vikings, who could be available via trade for maybe a day 2 pick, or you could go Trey Hendrickson, or you could go lower tier, but they'll get somebody in the next couple weeks, I believe, to help on the edge rush front. And then they clearly need a center. Tyler Linderbaum, though, is going to be probably above $20 million a year. We're talking, on a new deal. That's going to be tough for anybody.
Yeah, Tyler Linderbaum is poised to become the highest paid center in the National Football League in the next week, and the Bears do have a couple of needs to address here. You mentioned the edge rusher, Jeremy. Center is another position with the surprising retirement of Drew Dahlman, but today's move gave the Bears some more cap flexibility that they will need entering next week. I still think they're on the outside looking in regards to a Max Crosby trade, a potential trade there. There are a lot of teams checking in on Max Crosby, and there's still no firm indication that the Raiders are willing to move off him. But if they are, it certainly sounds like Chicago would have to beat out a lot of other teams, and it sounds like right now that might be challenging.
Yeah, who's on the inside looking in for the Max Crosby sweepstakes if he's available?
Well, I think right now you're watching the Dallas Cowboys out there. You're looking the Buffalo Bills today. A move like that, I think, hurts the chances that they could execute a big move like that. And again, I think there are a lot of teams circling around Max Crosby. It feels like, as I've said, the volcano is simmering beneath the surface, Laura. We're waiting to see if sometime in the next week it actually erupts.
Eruption. Really fast, what are they going to ask for him? Like, what would be a worthy cost to get a player like Max Crosby?
Well, they have said that they are looking for a Micah Parsons package. Do I think they'll get 2 ones in return? I don't think so. I think that that's a bit ambitious, but they also reserve the right to hold on to him and not trade him unless they get the offer that they want. They also don't feel like they are in a rush to make the move. They can make the move this week. They can make the move next week. They could decide to wait until before the draft. They even could hold on to Max Crosby and not trade him at all. It's not like they're all into moving him, but there certainly are a lot of teams circling around him and checking in to see what the price would be. My guess is it's slightly less than what Micah Parsons came in for last year for Green Bay.
Yeah, Adam mentioned Dallas. They are a key team in this equation because they want to support their new defensive coordinator, Christian Parker. They believe in revamping that defense, and they know it's going to take multiple pieces. So they're looking at the edge rush market. They're looking at linebacker. They're looking at safety. So Cowboys, I know we always talk every year, are they really going to spend or are they just going to go on the cheaper side of things? I do suspect that they'll do something here in the next week.
I think it's critical that they trade Max Crosby this offseason, and here's why. Their future is Clint Kubiak and presumably Fernando Mendoza. And I'd rather trade a player too soon than too late. If you could get 2 first-round picks, get an offensive lineman, a corner, and they basically need everything, I would do that because if not, a year from now, when you're still in a rebuild mode, Max Crosby may not get as much as all these defensive end needy teams may pay this year.
Yeah, his price is probably as high as it'll ever be right now.
Although Mike Vrabel said if he wants something, he can get it at any time.
Okay, well, interesting. Patriots, look out. Okay, some more news flying around the NFL. Adam, take us through the top stories. Let's start with a flurry of trades this week.
Well, listen, Laura, we are on Thursday, and we've seen 4 trades already this week, capped by the DJ Moore trade to the Buffalo Bills. There will be more with the new league year starting next Wednesday. This will not be all the moves that are made. More trades will be coming. We'll see the ones that come down. But you saw this week, DJ Moore, Trent McDuffie, David Montgomery, and Titus Howard all agreed to be traded away, and more trades, of course, will be on deck. Meanwhile, the New England Patriots moved on from their wide receiver, Stephon Diggs. They will save money against the cap, create a need at the position. They'll make that move next week. You see the savings right there of over $16 million in salary cap space by moving on from Stephon Diggs, who will be looking for another new team in another offseason. And the Saints' all-time franchise sack leader, Cam Jordan, is not expected to get a deal done with New Orleans, where he's played for 15 seasons, and he is now set to become a free agent next week, open to the idea of moving on from New Orleans, where he spent all his 15 NFL seasons. He's an 8-time Pro Bowl selection. We'll see if he ultimately decides to move on from the Saints, but there is an added pass rusher in the free agent market who wants to continue playing, and we'll see what type of interest he generates after he posted 10.5 sacks last season.
Hard to imagine him in a different uniform, but maybe he goes to a contender, Mike T. What do you expect the market to be for Cam Jordan out there?
One of my all-time favorite players, but he's going to be 37 this year. You know, Laura, to me, an ideal situation is Tampa Bay, right in the same division. They know him very well. They need help with their pass rush. I think you have to pay appropriately. This is more of the Khalil Max, Joey Bosa's great players towards the end. Maybe you squeeze a year or two out, 20, 30 plays a game, and maybe he gives you some production. Tampa Bay really needs help in their pass rush.
I'm fascinated by the Saints because they've been one of the older rosters in the NFL for years.
Yeah.
Now they have some young up-and-coming pieces, and they have 2 key free agents, Cam Jordan, Demario Davis. Do they move on? Is it the changing of the guard in New Orleans? I feel like it might be.
Those guys have been centerpieces of that defense, to your point. But Tyler Shucks looked really good. You never know. Cam Jordan, by the way, missing just 2 games in his 15-year NFL career. Coming light, Dak Prescott, he lives in the spotlight too. And in the shadow is Tad Carper, a face you often see but rarely notice as the senior VP of communications for the Cowboys. His job is to facilitate the Cowboys' participation in the media. In fact, he spent the majority of his professional career encouraging others to share their stories, to inspire others. Reluctant at first, Carper realized it's time to share his own. Lindsay Theory with the story.
I told him, I said, I think you just saved my life.
This season marks 12 years since Prescott lost his mother to cancer. Inspired by her, Prescott founded Faith, Fight, Finish in 2017 to connect with the community through charitable work, including cancer research.
I'm so profoundly grateful and happy to the impact that we have and we're able to make to all of our beneficiaries.
After attending a foundation gala in 2024, then Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy felt inspired to include cancer screening in annual physicals for the Cowboys coaching staff.
We got into training camp and he mentioned, hey, let's get all the coaches tested. And I said, say less. Obviously understanding what I've been through with losing my mom to cancer and understanding how important early screening is, it was a no-brainer. After coaches, a few spots remained, so Prescott invited Carper to also be screened.
Got the note that morning, say, hey, why don't you come over and get tested too? We're testing all the assistant coaches, and why don't you come too? And it's 7 a.m. one morning, and what else am I doing?
So Carper went. His blood was drawn to send to a lab and run through a Gallery test, a technology which screens for 50 different cancers and can identify their location.
I walked in, got tested, took blood, simple as that, sat there and talked for a while, and walked out and never thought about it again. And then, of course, 2 weeks later, got a different kind of phone call. You got a positive result for head or neck cancer, and we need to get you screened and scanned immediately. The rest of the day after that call was a bit surreal. Everything slowed down.
I'd gotten to know that there was a positive test, and that was it, and kind of wondered who it was, and maybe it was the next day or so that Tad approached me.
I said, hey, you know, the test that you arranged, well, that's me. I came back positive. Before I could get another word out of my mouth, his first response was, we hugged it up. He said, we got it. I know we got it.
A biopsy confirmed stage 2 throat cancer.
I had surgery to remove the tumor completely successfully, then underwent about 2 months of radiation treatments after that. My doctors told me if it was 2 months later, we'd be having a much different conversation and result.
Just to be very clear, you did not have any symptoms?
No, I felt fine. Would never have gotten tested. Shame on me, and that's part of the moral of this story, is get tested.
What's it mean to you that you helped save his life?
I don't know if it's something I really could ever put into words. I know how many people aren't fortunate of that. To just play a part in it is more than enough.
Just an incredible story all the way around. And March, by the way, is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. And as his story has become public, Carper says he's had multiple people reach out, some close to him, others complete strangers in emails, to say that his story has inspired them to get screened. We hope it helps somebody watching today. Still to come here on NFL.
George loves football. That's the one thing about it. I just want him to know, don't change your love for football. Don't get in the business mind of this. You played last year on a 1 year for not even that much, right? So if you can go 30, whatever it is now, I think it's the same thing I got. So, when I franchise. So, hey, go do it. At the end of the day, bet on yourself. He's a hell of a player. Hopefully we can get him long term and sign that. But if not, I think the way that he plays the game and the person that he is, he'll be just fine.
Obviously, Dak has a lot of experience with this, as he alluded to. Adam, any progress on that deal with Pickens? What do we expect?
No, Laura, that'll go on for a while. That's the expectation across the league. We may not see George Pickens during the Cowboys offseason program. This certainly has the potential to linger into and through the offseason. We'll see if there's any progress that's made, but this offseason is just about to get underway, but no progress yet for George Pickens.
Yeah, to Adam's point, this could get a little messy because you got the offseason program. He doesn't have to sign anything. He's technically not even on the team right now. I think it's a situation where he's going to wait a long time because he wants a deal with a 3 in front of it on a per-year average, and we'll see if Dallas is willing to do that.
If the line of demarcation was Labor Day, take the later, not the earlier. Last year was super easy with Micah Parsons. This is really difficult. I don't think this gets done for a long time.
Yeah, reminder, July 15th is the deadline there. So if you're looking at timelines, there's a lot of months before July. Thanks so much for tuning in today. A reminder, free agency kicks off next week. We got you covered throughout the days coming up next week and all the coverage you could ever need. But we'll also be back tomorrow at our regular time right here on ESPN. We'll see you then.